The shepherd view of parenting is actually quite glorious. You don't have to be focused upon the things you cannot control, and you devote yourself to the things that you should be controlling. The unique individual in whom God has given to you, and each of these children who will, at one time or another, struggle with deep questions about God. And what have you done to prepare them? What have you done to help them to answer the questions that likely you wrestled through, and for that matter, we can say that all from Adam and Eve in the garden have wrestled through? Did God really say this? Did God really mean this when He said this? The problem with the modern family is that we don't recognize that shepherds are actually powerful people. So here's where I want to begin to try to climb our way out of these rabbit holes. It's the shepherd who will pick the field in which he will feed his sheep. It's the shepherd who will determine the nourishment that will determine how close they get to this danger, or how to navigate that danger, or how to respond to this stimuli. The environment is important, but it doesn't design the sheep. Back to a modern culture, to the issues that combat the modern mind in this modern culture, is you and I would never have any kind of a discussion or argument that no matter how much you try to train your sheep, they will never become a sheepdog. Never. Now, they might carry similar traits, they might have similar colors, but a sheep will never become a sheepdog, and nobody has a problem with that. But why in this culture is there so much trouble with boys thinking they can become girls? Step back for a minute. Parents and grandparents, do you see yourself more as a shepherd here? It's actually Matthew Henry, long before Barclay comes along with his good arguments about parenting. It's Matthew Henry who makes the argument that a father of a home should view himself as a shepherd of a tiny flock of God's people. This is how God ordered the family. This is how God structured the family. You design the pasture. You do not engineer the sheep. Sheep are sheep. Your duty as a shepherd is to get them to the right pasture. Your duty as a shepherd is to make sure they don't drink poisonous water. You see the danger of our culture? Did God really say this? Did God really mean that? And yet, look how much influence we let that have in our children's lives. You should devote yourself more to that of a horticulturalist, spiritually speaking. What really is the best pasture land for your children to be eating from? You should nurture that environment. You should encourage that environment. You should put significant emphasis upon this environment in practice. All of a sudden, you begin to make application of this in the real life. Where you live makes a difference, doesn't it? I mean, there's no mistaking that people have been flooding out of the coastal cities and moving more inland. Why? Because it matters where your children are influenced. It matters what field they're eating from. So in a real physical matter, it matters where you live, doesn't it? For that matter, it matters where you don't live. It matters where you go to church. It matters if you go to church. It matters what you portray to your children as significant and important. What you entertain yourself will more influence your children than every in-house restriction you put on their cell phone. The way you entertain yourself will influence more your children than everything you block from their cell phone.